And we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. And joining me now, running on the Democrat ticket for Georgia 9th Congressional District, candidate Josh McCall. Mr. McCall, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Brian. It's good to see y'all this morning.
Let me ask you first and foremost, let's start in this direction. The 9th Congressional District, U.S. Georgia 9th Congressional District, is tied for the second most Republican district in the United States. So, I mean,
right.
Okay, so
What are my chances and why?
I didn't ask what your chances are. I just said, okay, so why do you feel it's that important to have a Democrat on the ticket out there campaigning for this district?
Well, number one, I think that in a republic like this, the people of our district, Republican and Democrat, deserve a choice. They deserve a debate, and they deserve a dialogue between the different ideas about how to run this country. I also feel that even though it is tied for the second most Republican district in the country, I feel that there are many people, actually that I don't feel this way. The data shows that the biggest party in this district is not Democrat or Republican, but it's non-voters. So one of the missions of my campaign is to try to go out to these voters who aren't polarized or attached to either party, but who have never seen a politician come to their door and ask them the most basic question in any republic, which is what I ask when I go up to people's door. How can I earn your vote? So that's what I'm doing. I think it's the most basic act of democracy and servant leadership that we can offer our people. And another, of course, duty that I have as a campaign leader, as a politician, is to give people a chance to say no and to be very clear about my issues, so that if people do reject my policies, they're informed about it and they're very clear on where I stand. And I do make this pledge that no matter what happens after this next election, I consider my neighbors in the 9th District my fellow citizens. That even if they say no to my candidacy, then we have still got to work together in this country to make a more perfect union.
All right, well, let me ask you this. We'll give you an opportunity to get into your issues. But some things that have taken place on the national stage, and a couple things that have taken place on the national stage. Let's tell viewers, or I want you to explain to viewers when I say it like this, what kind of Democrat are you? Because are you a socialist Democrat? How would you define yourself to the voters? Because there's people out there on the national stage, Maxine Waters, so on and so forth, so many. How would you describe yourself as a Democrat?
Sure. Just like the Republican Party, there's a very broad array of the different kinds of Democrats. You know, at one point in this district, the last person to win actually in this district as a Democrat, his name was Nathan Deal. He was a Democrat at one point before the political wind shifted. There have been a lot of different kinds of Democrats over the decades. I am a social Democrat. That means I'm not a socialist. I'm more like FDR. FDR believed that in strengthening capitalism and making sure that the benefits of capitalism, which are powerful, actually affect the entire economy and the entire nation, not just those at the very top. So under the New Deal economy in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, our economy grew at such a pace that they now call it the economic miracle. And that was back when taxes on the very wealthiest corporations were much higher than they are now. And we did more investment in infrastructure, which we were promised by Mr. Trump, didn't get. We did more investment in education. We built new schools and we hired new teachers. But we haven't done that in a long time. We have got to work to invest in our next door neighbor and not just the billionaires who own Congress. And that's one of my commitments as a social democrat. I have not taken a single penny from any PAC, whether a billionaires PAC like the Koch brothers, or whether it's an environmental PAC, because I don't think that Congress should be bought by any special interest. I think we've got to do something about all the crooked money in Congress, and I have an idea about draining the swamp as well. We've seen the swamp actually take over Washington since Trump got there. Drain the swamp by taxing the swamp.
Took over since he got there?
Yes.
Okay, how do you explain that?
Well, we have a lot of corruption. Scott Pruitt was an eyesore on the Republican Party. He stayed for over a year, and I can't figure out why he stayed so long. But he built himself a soundproof room, costing the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. He sat in a car owned by the government, and they would play the siren as he drove through town, so he didn't have to wait for traffic like schmucks like you and me.
Okay. I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you're going to put things out like Scott Pruitt and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he cost the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, I myself, this is my opinion, the Russian witch hunt. That's my opinion. It's the Russian witch hunt.
Your opinion?
Yeah. It's I would call it fact, but I'm not gonna push that.
Okay.
My opinion is this is just a witch hunt, and $28 million. Are we up to $28 million that the special counsel? And George Papadopoulos got 14 days in jail the other day. So I don't want to go down that road, but when you say...
Oh, we're on the road already. Let's go down.
Yeah, when you say Scott Pruitt and hundreds of thousands of dollars and the swamp...
Well, the swamp is partly Manafort, who wore his ostrich jackets until he's going to have to wear an orange jumpsuit.
Manafort, nothing was ever attached to Trump.
Manafort was his campaign manager. For 6 months.
But none of these indictments and convictions had anything to do.
You just said something. Look, you just said something.
None of these convictions had anything to do with Donald Trump.
You just made a claim that Paul Manafort was not connected to Donald Trump. Are you ready to stand by that claim?
The convictions that he was convicted for had no attachment to Donald Trump.
So he was his campaign manager while he was failing to register as a foreign agent. That does cross into Donald Trump territory. You ever read the Podestas? You ever read Tony Podesta? Sure. Is this one of the bait? We're going to go down Podesta Road now?
No, I'm not talking about John Podesta. I'm talking about Tony Podesta.
You don't want to talk about Manafort and Trump anymore. If we reach the sensitive territory,
no, it's not sensitive with me.
Well, it apparently is, because you don't want to talk about it anymore. And you want to talk about Podesta. Let's talk about Manafort and Trump for a while, and then we'll move on to Podesta if you don't.
No, if you're talking about registering as a foreign agent. Have you ever really looked into? Don't take this wrong. You don't want to waste your time here. You got issues you'd like to get to. Okay, but have you?
I didn't bring these things up, by the way. You're the one who brought it up.
But you said Scott Pruitt and a couple $100,000, and I'm not just saying that's nothing. But you said
it is
Scott
something.
Pruitt a couple $100,000. We're up to $28 million.
Well, there was also the issue of Scott Pruitt staying at a apartment in Washington for basement rates. And he was staying in the home of a lobbyist who had business
because
in front of the
sure
EPA.
That's never happened with Democrats.
Well, hold on a second. It has happened with Democrats, and when it has, we should call it out, and they should investigate it. But the problem with the right-wing media is every time we want to bring up Scott Pruitt staying in the home of a lobbyist for basement rates, if I did that, I should be investigated. If one of my campaign members took an interview with an email trail, right? An interview with a Russian operative saying the Kremlin is interested in your candidate getting elected, and we have some dirt on your opponent from hacked emails. We would like a meeting in your tower that you own. Now, I don't own a tower, but if I took one of those meetings, it should be investigated because that is a crime.
I'm going to say very respectfully, you have not done your research on foreign.
That is a lie.
No,
that is a lie.
On foreign.
You're insulting me. No, and that is a lie.
On foreign involvement into campaigns.
No, hold on. Excuse me. I know the rules because I'm running a campaign. And if somebody who is not an American citizen offers me assistance that's of any worth, especially stolen materials, that would be a crime, and I would need to report it to the FBI immediately. So what happened with Don Jr., we have his emails, which he released. The email says, I am from Russia. I am a representative from the Russian government. We are interested in your father's campaign, and we have some material which would help you in your campaign. That is material assistance from a foreign government, and that is a crime. And if I committed that crime, it would be illegal, and I should be investigated. So I have done my homework, and I don't think insulting me that way.
I didn't insult you. You haven't. No,
you said I
you can call it an insult all day long.
It is an insult
because you continue to say Republican this, Republican that. But you're going to tell me all through the Mueller investigation and everything that we know well right now with Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, Peter Strzok, you see nothing at all, no problems whatsoever on the Democrat side. And
I never said that, though. You see, we don't have to have a perfect Democratic side for us to investigate the Republicans. Imagine this scenario in Gainesville, Georgia. If a Democratic or a Republican sheriff takes a bribe, do we have to have an investigation into the Democratic opponent from that year before we can prosecute him? You see, this whole game that we're setting up here, where the Democrats have to be perfect before we can prosecute Republicans, is fantasy land. It's not. It's engineered by the national right-wing media to make sure that nothing Trump has ever done. Because think about it, Trump could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and then y'all will still be saying, has a Democrat never shot somebody? We've got to actually, he's president, Hillary's not, and we've actually got to, at some point, the party of personal responsibility has got to make their president take some personal responsibility about the lies he's told, about his obstruction of justice. But I do want to talk about issues.
Obstruction of justice. You call them insults, so you can take away. You can take away what you want. I take away what I want. I'm not telling you that I'm insulting you. That's your perception of what I'm saying. I'm just saying, in all due respect, you have not done your complete research on campaign involvement,
and that's not true.
Foreign campaign involvement.
Well, tell me what I said that was wrong. If I haven't done my homework, show me where I'm wrong. Is it not a crime to take material assistance from a foreign government? Have you done your research? Is it a crime?
What are you specifically talking about?
Is it a crime? You accused me of not doing my homework.
I didn't accuse. Well, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because you're talking about foreign involvement in a campaign.
Not foreign involvement. Not meeting someone from overseas. But I'm talking about accepting material assistance. You accused me of not doing my homework.
What material did they get? They do it all the time. They do it all the time.
No, they don't do it all the time.
Yeah, they do it all the time.
Who?
Clinton's done it. Obama did it. Everybody that's on that level will send somebody maybe to sit down and hear, hey, I might know something on somebody. You sit down with them.
Do you have evidence of that?
Huh?
Do you have evidence that Hillary Clinton received an email from a representative claiming to be from the Russian government who said, we have dirt on your opponent? Do you have evidence of that?
Look.
Have you done your homework?
Do you want to go on your issues, or you want to go into the Clinton Foundation?
I didn't take us down the witch hunt road. I followed you down this trail. We can talk about the Clinton investigation, but you accused me.
So if elected, would you?
Let's clear this up. Would you? You accused me, a candidate, of not doing my homework
on foreign involvement in presidential campaigns.
I said that it is a crime to take material assistance from a foreign government. Do you know the campaign election law? Do you know that it is a crime to take material assistance from a foreign government? Did you know that? I've done my homework. It is a crime. So I would encourage you, if I'm wrong, I need tough questions. I expect tough questions.
No,
and I expect.
So you're telling me what happened in Trump Tower in that meeting is a crime?
Was a crime.
Okay, what's that result in? Do you think Donald Trump should be impeached?
Depending on what he knew. If he knew that it was.
So if elected, would you push to impeach the President of the United States?
If he committed a crime, of course. As we should. If any president commits a crime of fraud, then that president should be impeached.
So are you not interested? I think we should move away from this, not because of right and wrong where you and I are concerned, is because you have other things that you may want to. Mm-hmm. If elected, would you vote for Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House? That is the question. That is the question everybody gets.
No, I wouldn't, and I'll tell you why. It's not because she's not popular in certain media outlets. The reason I wouldn't vote for her is because she has not come out in support of Medicare for all. My number one priority as a candidate is to make sure that every American has access to life-saving health care. And Nancy Pelosi, who has government health care, just like a bunch of the Republicans who really hate socialism, when they get to Congress, they love socialism. Nancy Pelosi has said she does not agree with Medicare for all, that health care is a right. And I think that we should not have a leader of the House who doesn't stand for equal rights for all. This is basic human life. And so that's why I wouldn't support her. I think we need a strong progressive leader who stands up for justice and equality for all. And I think that anybody who is not... Now, A majority, 52% of Republicans are for Medicare for all, and over 70% of Democrats are for Medicare for all. So I'm tired of out-of-touch politicians who don't keep up with the desire and the will of the people.
How do we pay for it?
More efficiently and more cheaply than we're paying for healthcare now. We spend over twice as much per capita as a government on healthcare, and it's not even a right as countries like Germany. I know people who are making choices on Social Security between buying insulin and paying for food every month. You can buy insulin in Canada where they make a profit off of insulin for $28. Here it's $300 because these pharmaceutical companies, who, by the way, pay more to Congress than any other lobbying group, even more than the war industry. They are corrupting our Congress, and my opponent is one of the many, some of them are Democrats and some of them are Republicans, who take money from the pharmaceutical industry. It's the best Congress money can buy. It's not a very good one. And so we've got to stand up to these pharmaceutical companies because it's not a phone. It's not a luxury. When you have insulin and you produce insulin, you have the power of life and death. And they need to make a profit, a fair profit. But they don't need to make, robber baron profits. So that's why I'm running. That's why I don't support Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. But it would be cheaper than what we're doing now. It would save us. Even the Koch brothers, who are no friend to progressive politics, they funded a study, and it was by a group called Mercatus. Mercatus found that over the next 10 years, Medicare for all would not only guarantee health care to every single American, it would save us $3 trillion in overall savings. So that's why I'm for it. It would be more conservative. It would make the government spend less money on health care than it does now. And it would bring equality and justice to our country, which has been sorely lacking for a long time in the health care arena.
All right, let me ask you this. How do you explain the economy if this is let me just say this, okay? Mm-hmm. You brought up the swamp, Trump and the swamp. When I asked you to explain that, you went to Scott Pruitt. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then when we got a little deeper, you went to the Trump Tower meeting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we talked about Medicare for all and paying for it, but I asked you about impeaching the president, and you said mm-hmm. determining on what crimes may have been mm-hmm. committed. Mm-hmm. All right. What about the economy? How do you explain the economy right now doing so well? 4.2 GDP. Mm-hmm. Okay, 4.2 GDP and wages increasing at the highest rate since 2009. How do you explain that? And why would the American people want to change that?
Those are two great questions. Number one, 4.2% GDP has been reached over 60 times since they started measuring it this way, since World War II. So it's not unusual for us to reach 4.2% GDP.
But the economic policies of the last 8 years
did not reach 4.2% several times under Obama.
It did?
Fact check it. Yes. Okay. And I will come on here and say I was wrong if you prove me wrong. It reached over 5% once under Obama in one quarter. So it's not unusual for the American economy. We're the richest nation in the history of the world. Of course we're going to reach 4.2% GDP. And that's not because of Obama or Trump either. Sometimes we look at presidents as this magic shaman who will make prosperity rain on all of us, right? It's workers who are funding. It's the American people who make the economy grow. It's not a president. One of the problems with measuring GDP as prosperity, if you go, I'm knocking on doors, I'm talking to the constituents. And I can promise you, I hope he does, but so far Doug Collins has not done that. I knock on doors and talk to people. And if you go to one of these trailer parks in the 9th District, where unemployment is high and underemployment is even higher, they're making the same wages, but with more expensive medical bills and more expensive gas and higher cost of living. So real wages have dropped. Real wages have been dropping since the 80s. And I'll tell you why this wage increase happened if you look at the math, if you put me and Nick Chubb and average us out, it's going to be a really high average for squat and bench press. But that doesn't reflect my strength versus Nick Chubb. He's going to be much stronger than me. If you average all these American families out with the Walton family who owns Walmart, it's going to look really high, like we have great wages. But the problem is if you look at the median wage, It's the real wages have actually fallen, and that's because we gave $1.5 trillion tax cut to the wealthiest people in this country, over 540 billionaires in this country who pay lower taxes as a percentage than you or I do. And what we did was we entrusted them, hey, we're going to give you all this money, right? This is free market, trickle-down economics. Now you're going to give us all a raise. And they're laughing all the way to the bank. Why would they give us a raise if they operate on the principle of, I want more money for myself? Jeff Bezos is paying lower taxes now, and his workers are working longer hours for lower wages now. So, of course, overall, if you average the billionaires who walked away, according to Marco Rubio, walked away with over 80% of these tax cuts. If you take them and average them in with the chicken plant worker, it's going to be a really high average. But I think we need to look at working class people's wages, because 75% of America right now, in this 4.2% GDP, are struggling paycheck to paycheck to make ends meet. That's the real measurement. The economy is not Wall Street. The economy is your neighbor. How is your neighbor doing? Paying bills, paying for health care.
Let me go into one thing. Mm-hmm. So you said chicken plant worker, okay? Mm-hmm. And I won't state numbers because I don't want to be off a number or two, and if I'm off a number, I don't want to be fact checked and corrected. But I know this: we are sitting a mile from a chicken plant, and you brought up chicken plant worker.
Right.
I think over there on the flashing sign is a very big bonus to go to work there. Just to go is a bonus. Well, wait a minute, you brought that up. They can't get help. And they have increased their wages for their people
to $10.
Okay.
The median wage for someone working in the chicken plants is around $10, which, by the way, is poverty wages. What we're doing right now is not a fair deal. We're expecting workers to come in and work some of the hardest jobs in our country and some of the most necessary jobs. I'm a Latin teacher. Sometimes I'm surprised when I go to the bank or go to the grocery store and I use my card. Is this real money they're paying me to teach Latin, right? So I expect when I go to work to be paid a fair wage so I can support my family. Not for luxury, but enough to support my family. But we are not expecting Fieldale, Tyson Foods, and some of these multi-billion-dollar industries who walk away with billions of dollars. They live in silos, culturally and economically, and they're exploiting workers who make poverty wages, working some of the hardest jobs and the most necessary jobs in this country. And that's not right. That's not just. We have got to make sure that if somebody gives their day, their entire day, to work, to hard work, that they walk away with enough to support their family. That's only fair.
Only fair. Okay, that's your comment, only fair. Let me ask you another question on that. So on the economy, 3.9 unemployment, 4.2 GDP, which you explained away a minute ago.
I didn't explain it away.
Well, I mean that this time
it.
You analyzed. Okay, so 4.2 GDP, 3.9 unemployment, increase in wages. Yeah.
Overall, yes, as an average.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Okay, sure. I got this question. You said not you've brought up the chicken plants. You brought up the chicken plants. Okay, and then you said you knocked on doors at the trailer park.
Right.
All right. So I'm not going to put your total campaign in a box that's what you're going at. Have you gone and spoke to a lot of small businesses?
I have. In fact, I have support from a lot of small businesses.
You're sitting in a small business.
Right.
Okay.
Now, small businesses actually are the ones getting really screwed over royally by the swamp. Because let me tell you, Jeff Bezos is going to pay a lower tax rate this year than you are. He is going to exploit Chinese workers and minimum wage, low wage warehouse workers this year. People who are having to run back and forth with a computer on them, tracking their movements. Talk about totalitarianism, right? But he is going to pay a lower tax rate this year than you are. I think small businesses should get a tax break, and we should be rewarding small businesses for employment. It's hard to employ people. I know doctors and lawyers in town, and they are rightly suspicious of tax hikes because people who are, and I'm going to say this, merely rich and not ultra rich. People who are rich pay a very high tax rate And these local business owners employ people, Americans, who spend money in the local economy and fund the schools. They should get up to a $75,000 tax break for every worker they pay up to $75,000. $1 for wages, $1 for a tax break. Now, if we did that, we could change our whole system. Instead of giving just a tax break with no strings attached to these companies, they're still going to send their jobs overseas. They didn't put any strings on those tax breaks. So Kim Kardashian is going to get the same tax break, right, as anybody who employs people in a chicken plant. But I think we should reward people for paying people a fair wage. So as long as you pay a worker up to $75,000 a year, you should get that money back in taxes as a small business owner. But I think once you reach $1 million as a company, I don't think you need those tax breaks anymore. So actual small businesses should get tax breaks. But Jeff Bezos does not need a tax break. In fact, I think we need to tax the hell out of him and the Koch brothers and Apple, because they owe us, right? They could not make money in the Somalian market. They can only make their big billions here because of our society and this economy that your fathers and my fathers and mothers built over the decades. So they owe something to education and roads and security for everybody.
So Bezos, Amazon, Washington Post, Apple, Google, Twitter, Facebook, a large part, I know you say Koch brothers, but a large part of those actual liberal-leaning CEOs.
Right. You're right. But the problem is they don't practice liberalism, right? And this is one of the big problems with the Democratic Party many times. I think it's changing. I hope it's changing. I'm trying to change it. But in the past, there have been Democratic leaders who have espoused this liberal sort of view of humanity, but they certainly didn't practice it when it came to employing people or when it came to paying people a fair wage. So Jeff Bezos can go and brand himself as a progressive all he wants, but while his warehouse workers are still living in poverty, literally with a computer tracking their movements in their warehouse, they have to pay, but they have to, by the way, clock out, and on their way out they have to be checked to make sure they're not stealing anything. And the Supreme Court, the best court money could buy, ruled a couple of years ago they actually don't have to be clocked in. They can actually be held for up to 45 minutes unpaid waiting to get out of the warehouse. So the workers in this country are losing power every single day, and the billionaires are getting more power, and they're not being generous with it, I can tell you that.
So let me ask you this, though. Do you feel the tax breaks that repatriated money, okay, because we did have one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world. So the tax break that repatriated money, that Apple and so many brought money back in and infused cash into this economy, that right there, the death tax being eliminated, which if you were probably out talking to family farmers, you'd probably have to look a little closer at that and the benefit of that for family farms. But anyhow, the death tax being eliminated, the people paying less tax. So everything where that, and these are my words, okay? These are my words, Mr. McCall. But when I'm listening to you, I'm getting the impression everything where that's concerned is smoke and mirrors that the government's putting out, and things are not better now since Trump took office.
I don't think it's smoke and mirrors. I don't think they're trying to play it as a trick. After Trump won his election, he walked into a really fancy restaurant in New York. It's on film. And he says, I just won the presidency. You're all about to get a huge tax break. And this is a room full of billionaires and millionaires. So I don't think it's smoke and mirrors. They don't try to hide it very well. The Republicans, with their power, could have reformed immigration. They could have reformed health care. They've had a lot of power in the Senate and Congress. They managed to get tax breaks through for billionaires, but nothing else. But of course, why fix a problem like immigration if it keeps you getting elected, right? If the Republican Party didn't have immigration to scare people with, to make them angry about, they would lose a big part of their platform. So we know that the Republican Party, and too often, by the way, some of the Democrats voted for that too, it's the best Congress money can buy. If you take money from a corporation, the devil comes and collects his due. And they want more tax breaks. That means less money for education. That means less money for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And I'll tell you, there's one proof that this repatriation didn't work. We are running a $1 trillion deficit this year with a supposedly great economy. And it is a bull market. It's going up, but we're actually going deeper into debt under Donald Trump. And I don't hear a lot of conservatives complaining about it.
So the economy, I do know a lot of business owners that cannot find help, that have ads out trying to find help, offering different things to try to get help in. Let's move to immigration. Do you feel like some Democrats, do you feel we should abolish ICE? What is your opinion on what the mayor of Atlanta did this past week with ICE and the detainees that are in the Atlanta jail? Do you think we should abolish ICE? And do you think we should build the wall, not build the wall? And what is your proposal for immigration?
Sure, 3 things. So first of all, abolishing ICE. So I hear conservatives talking all the time about how they want to shrink government. There is no greater danger to everybody's constitutional rights in this country than ICE. These are agents out of uniform who don't have to show their badge, who are patrolling places, apartment buildings, looking for people who are no threat to you or me. There was a man who went and delivered a pizza to an army base. He was picked up by ICE while delivering pizza to them. He was not a threat. There was a young woman who was on her way to a hospital in an ambulance who has major medical problems. ICE arrested her in the hospital. She was no threat to us, but ICE is a threat to every Constitution-believing American, because we should not be picking up people and asking them for papers. This is Nazi Germany stuff. We shouldn't be having to wear badges or carry papers around with us.
You've named a couple people.
Yes.
And you've said they're no threat.
They aren't. That little girl in the hospital is no threat.
Pizza delivery guy.
Right.
And then the lady that's being in the you said twice no threat. Let me ask you, yes or no? Are they here illegally? Do you know?
Yeah, they were not documented. Right.
They were not documented. So, at what day do you decide? And when I say you, your party or like-minded,
Congress needs to decide it.
What day do you decide they're no threat? What day? 5 years that this guy worked on a farm under an alias in out west, what day did that individual become a threat? Well, if he would have been picked up 3 days before, would we be arguing he was of no threat?
Well, the Constitution would argue that you're not a threat until you commit a crime.
Well, the crime was crossing the border. Now, wait a minute. A minute ago,
you asked me a question.
Wait a minute, but I just want to say this, and I'll back away. Okay. A minute ago, which I want to go back to before we close, you were giving me the laws and the crimes on the 24th floor of Trump Tower.
Right.
But now all of a sudden, now we've got a different subject.
No,
they crossed the border illegally, and that is a crime.
Right. Well, in some instances, it was a crime. But in some instances, if they cross the border as refugees, it is not a crime. It is legal to appear at the border and surrender yourself to the guards and say, I'm running from violence. That is under our law and international law.
That is legal, absolutely.
That is legal. But currently, now we want, law and order for these people. Some of these people were put into cages. These kids were taken from their parents and put into cages. They were told by ICE, we're taking them to give them a shower. And they took them away, and there's still 400 people, kids. One of them has died in our custody for lack of medical care. All of them, I'm picturing my kids. If they were kept away from me for a year now, and I was in a different country, what are we doing to these kids? And we want law and order. There's a judge order that said you need to get these kids back with their parents within 60 days. There are still 400 kids there. Shouldn't we arrest the people? If we're going to be law and order, if we're going to arrest all the immigrants who cross the border illegally, shouldn't we arrest every one of the people detaining these kids for holding them longer than the court order allowed? I mean, let's just be just for everybody. Let's not let law and order only apply to poor immigrants trying to cross the border.
Do you know if you fly from Heathrow, is that London? Is that Heathrow? And you and your wife have your children with you, but they have no documents whatsoever, and they're calling you mom and dad, and you get on a plane and you have your passport and all your documents and your wife. When you get to JFK and you start through customs, they'll separate your children from you. It doesn't matter how much they call.
They put them in a cage?
They'll separate your children. That's an international recognized law because of things like sex trafficking.
Right, of course.
And so,
as they should.
Course.
As they
Wait
should.
a minute, but if you value in, okay, I'm not going to argue with you because I'm not going to. If we're going to go down that road, we'll come back and we'll have a debate.
Let's go down the road because we're on immigration.
No. If we're going to go down the depth of it, then we'll set it up a different time. So I got my documents. But when you look at the number of people that try to cross this border with children that are not theirs,
right, and we should make sure they're theirs.
Okay.
But we're not trying to make sure they're their kids. Look, this is not me.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah, I know we probably don't want to talk about this.
No, it's not. We don't want to talk about it. I just think.
Let's continue because months before this policy took effect, Trump administration officials like Kelly went on CNN and on all these networks and said, "This is what we're going to do. We are going to take kids from their parents to deter border crossings, including the crossings that were from refugees." So this is not me claiming
open borders. Is that what you're saying? Open borders, or what's your immigration plan?
No, I think we need a fair immigration plan. We need to recognize human rights. So we do need to patrol the border. I don't believe in open borders. But when we do detain people, we need to treat them with humanity, with basic constitutional rights. No cruel and unusual punishment. That's a constitutional principle. And conservatives everywhere should be out in the streets protesting the fact that for the crime, which is a misdemeanor, of crossing the border, that is like taking my kids from me because I went speeding. Give me a ticket. Fine me. And for them, deport them. Right? They crossed illegally. Look to make sure if they're not in danger, if they're just wanting to cross over to get a better job, right? If they are not running from real danger, deport them back to their home, right? But before then, they should have constitutional rights, which is due process of law, which is guaranteed in the Constitution. It doesn't say citizens are guaranteed due process. It says persons, and they are people. The Constitution recognizes them as people. Our legal system should too. So my immigration system is this. For the jobs, like you said, they're looking for workers here. And every worker lost is $1 lost in local schools and local businesses. But one of the reasons we're not filling them is because of xenophobia. We're afraid of immigrants. Our fears have been stoked. They're speaking a different language. They maybe have a different color skin. But because of our fear, we're letting jobs go unfilled. That's chicken that could be processed. That's homes that could be built while the economy is booming. So I think that we need to have a fair system where they get workers' visas. If we have a need we can't fill with American workers, I think we need to allow people here for a workers' visa. And one of the things that Canada does is that they have seasonal visas, and they don't get them their paycheck until they go back to Mexico. So there are a lot of things we can do to fix immigration. What have the Republicans done to fix immigration? The Republican Party can't even agree on an immigration bill.
Well, let me just say this, not to go into whether the Republicans can fix immigration or not, but I will say this: if you're going to say fix immigration, yesterday is just that. It's yesterday, but you can't go without saying, you know what? Democrats had the House.
You're right.
They had 60 votes. Now, we got to be clear. The
No, for a few months they had 60, but Ted Kennedy was 6, so they had it for a few months. You're right.
Okay.
No, but they should have.
They had. Let's. Okay.
Let me tell you
See,
what
everything. I always say this, okay, because I'm not taking up for a political party. Period. Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm not. You can smirk if you want.
I'm not smirking.
I'm not a Republican or I'm not a Democrat.
Come on, Bill.
No, I'm a conservative.
Oh, what is there?
You and I have never been confused on that. We've had spirited conversations on the phone. I'm a conservative. There's things that Republicans don't agree with me on. So
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a conservative, and I'm very clear on that.
Okay.
But here's what frustrates me with Democrats.
Okay.
Everything you want to fix, and you said you won't vote for Nancy Pelosi. But Nancy could be Speaker of the House. There was a time when Nancy had the gavel.
Not with my vote.
I understand. But there was a time when Nancy had the gavel. Harry Reid had the Senate.
Yep.
60 votes. Now, for our viewers, 60 votes is what? Filibuster proof, right?
Exactly.
So they had 60 votes. And they had the President of the United States.
Yep.
They could have everything you say. And when I say you, all due respect, Mrs. McCall, when I say you, I say the Democrat Party. Okay?
Right.
But everything the Democrat Party says the Republicans won't fix.
They didn't fix either.
They could have lined it up with a
Exactly.
filibuster-proof economy.
Now, of course, and now I would quibble a little bit on the filibuster proof because Ted Kennedy was sick. It was 59 votes for most of the Senate time.
Arlen Specter went Democrat, and so.
But they could have worked with some moderate Republicans to pass it with a filibuster-proof majority. And if you'll remember, and this is one of my favorite times of Obama's presidency, immigrant rights groups showed up at his rallies to protest him. I don't know if you remember this, but he would try to speak, and Barack Obama is brilliant. He's charming. I think a lot of the things he did were good. However, he, according to the immigrant rights community, you see, the thing is that the progressive wave in this country that wants to represent justice and equality and mercy, they call out Democrats when they don't stand up for their principles. And the Senate Democrats and the congressional Democrats were frankly cowards because they could sense the rising tide of xenophobia. They were afraid of being bold in their agenda and saying, let's reform immigration. Let's make it fair, let's make it humane, and let's help our economy. They were afraid of the backlash they would receive and the political tool that would be used against them. And that's no excuse for them. I think they should have, and I think it was a great failure of their leadership that they didn't reform immigration. So, and it's maybe even perhaps worse than Republicans because it's hypocrisy, right? Republicans don't pretend to be great friends of immigrants, especially now. They did it under Reagan. Reagan and Bush had a debate trying to compete with who would be the better friend to immigrants. But now, Republican Party has dropped its mask, and they are no friend to immigrants.
Well, I will tell you this. Outside here, when you continue to say immigrants, and I get frustrated with the debate because I grew up in a neighborhood, late 60s, starting into the 70s, where the majority of my neighbors were immigrants, are immigrants that came to this country legally. So I grew up in a neighborhood like that. So for me, it's frustrating when yourself or others keep saying immigrants. There are legal channels to go through for immigration, crossing the border in different spots, and the drug issue, and we won't get there right now because we can come back to that. I just don't want to say waste our time, but I don't want to get too far. But there's things like that because a minute ago, let me just go back to something because I'm listening to a lot, and I don't want to say agree or disagree. You're very concerned about the middle class taxpayer. You're very concerned about billionaires not getting a tax break, and this person not getting a tax break when billionaires and this money coming in. You live in Gainesville, man.
I do.
You live in Gainesville. I'm going to use the number 999. Okay. If you go on over to your local school just started, and check with the school and find out how many new 999 students are in the school, meaning undocumented. There's a code. I think it's called the 999. I think it is. Okay. When you show concern, and I'm not saying you're not. I want to make sure we're clear. I'm not saying you're not concerned. I met your family, and I do know you're passionate, and I think you're a good guy. I'll be straight up. We may not agree, but when we get done,
we're neighbors.
You and I stood out in the parking lot one night and talked for a long time. So I'm fine there. But what I'm saying is, when you show concern with taxpayers and you show concern with $10 an hour people making $10 an hour, and you use words like fair. Have you gone over and looked at how many 999? Because right here where we're at in Gilmer County, I know. Okay? So the 999 is there's no documents.
Right.
Child usually comes in with the mother. Mother implies she can't speak English. I'll leave it there. Okay? Implies no comprende. All right? I'm just going to say, okay? But does not speak English. So the child does all the talking. All right? And they put the kid in school, but there's no documentation.
When they first come, they can't do any of the talking either. I've taught, and I know how this works. When they first come here, they can't speak English.
All right. That's
only after they've been here for a while. If they were born here and they grew up here, they perhaps
all
can
I'm
do
going
the
to
talking.
say is when you go to enroll your children in school, if the adult can understand and without interpreter, there's general a little more not questions asked, but usually the children do a lot of the talking at that area. Okay.
My wife did the same thing for her parents, by the way. Her parents were refugees from Vietnam, and I actually still have to take care of some of their paperwork because they've been here for a long time, but they find it hard to understand English over the phone.
Okay. But these children are being put into our schools.
As they should be.
Okay.
They deserve an education. These are children.
These
they
are
didn't
things.
Choose their fate.
These are things that taxpayers have had enough of.
No, they haven't. I haven't. I'm a taxpayer. And
you're okay with paying for
the education of children who didn't choose to be here? Yes, they should have an education. They didn't choose to cross that border because when you're not 15, you don't have power over your own destiny. They are future Americans. They are Americans in everything but paperwork. So I am proud to say I pay for those kids because look, these are kids. They're going to be here. They are just as human as you or I. They are just as human as you or I.
I didn't say they're not.
Well, they need an education.
I'm here legally. I'm a citizen.
It doesn't. If you're here
it doesn't
legally,
matter.
In this it doesn't.
Matter?
In this matter, it doesn't. The Constitution would agree with me. Whether you are a legal or an illegal immigrant, the Constitution says you need fair treatment. And you don't know they're undocumented. Right? The Constitution says you can't just assume somebody is undocumented.
They have no documentation.
You can't assume by looking at them that they have committed a crime. So the way to look at this
that's why they're under the 999 status is so the state
school,
can identify them because they don't have documentation.
But the school, I hope you're not suggesting that they should be deported out of the schools, that we should have deportation forces, because that's the only solution to it, unless we can reform.
I never said deportation forces. Don't put,
Well, Trump did.
Huh?
Trump did.
Let me just say this.
Okay.
All I'm saying is, if you get down to the roots and you really get into the debate of what the burden on taxpayers in this country is, when you want to talk about the person working at the chicken plant that's paying taxes.
They are paying taxes.
Right. And me paying taxes and you paying taxes, and we're not the billionaires. We're the ones paying the bill over there.
Well, you're not the only one, because the person working at the chicken plant, who is also probably undocumented, the mom is probably cleaning houses, she's paying local taxes, and she is paying into this local system. So those parents...
Are you implying the chicken houses are employing undocumented?
Come on, Bill. I've had some questions. Brian, I'm sorry.
That's
Brian,
okay.
Excuse me. Brian, if you think... I can tell you this. If you want to really... You can build a border wall all you want to. By the way, the only way I would ever agree to it is if Mexico paid for it, which was in the deal. No, not one single penny of American taxpayers' dollars. While we're talking about tax burdens, not one penny of American taxpayer money should go into it, because Donald Trump made a promise. He was going to make Mexico pay for it. So not one American penny goes into that wall. But I will tell you this, these children who are in our schools, who are children of undocumented people, if they started raiding Fieldale and Tyson and construction workers zones, I bet we'd have immigration reform tomorrow, because undocumented immigrants are not eligible for Medicare, for Medicaid. They're not eligible for food stamps. The only cost they do sometimes accrue is when they have to go to the emergency room. But other than that, they don't qualify for Social Security. They pay in billions into Social Security that you and I will enjoy when we get there, if the Republicans don't cut it first. So the undocumented immigrants are paying their fair share. They are paying their fair share. They're paying a higher tax rate than, once again, Jeff Bezos and Apple. Or Betsy DeVos. One of her yachts got set free, and it wasn't flying the American flag. You know why? Because she has it registered in the Cayman Islands, even though it's floating around on the Great Lakes. So these billionaires are paying less in taxes than the chicken plant workers who are undocumented. So I ask you, who's more patriotic? I think it's the chicken plant workers, even though Betsy DeVos happened to be born rich and in America.
Okay.
They're also feeding you and me.
Let's go back to something earlier, and I'd like for you to tell me this one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the Trump Tower meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to me what was illegal about the Trump Tower meeting.
Sure.
Explain it to me one more time.
Okay. So under our current election law, you cannot take material assistance that's worth anything, right? And you can also not take stolen materials from anybody, from a foreign agent. You can't take stolen materials from an American agent, but you can't take anything of any value from a foreign agent. And I'll give you an example of this. When I first started running, I didn't know much about election law. I had a former student who gave me a check, right? Now, I didn't know at this time that this former student, because he was my student, I assumed he was a citizen, right? But I found out he wasn't. I gave his check back to him because that would have been illegal. And under election law, once you find out about this, you got to fix it, right? I didn't try to cover it up. If I did, that would have been a crime. But once I found out that check couldn't be legally given to me because he wasn't a citizen, then I had to say, hey, I'm sorry, I appreciate your support. He, by the way, a month later became a citizen.
Let me go back to the Trump Tower.
Hold on. The Trump Tower meeting happened, and we have the emails, which Don Jr. himself released. Don Jr. released them because he knew the press was going to release them. Here is the offer on the table. We want an ease in sanctions. We are interested, and all the way up to Putin is interested in helping your father win an election. And we have dirt on your opponent, hacked through the DNC emails. Let's meet and discuss what we can exchange. So in that meeting, Jared Kushner, Donald Jr., and Manafort. And I can tell you, if my campaign manager or anybody on my campaign agreed to that meeting, they'd be fired and I'd be reporting to the FBI tomorrow.
I want to go back to what you said the law is. The law is if you take, just one more time, I'm not dense.
Anything that's of any worth,
any value,
okay, or stolen.
Stolen.
Yeah, the emails, by the way, that were hacked, that's illegal to hack people's email. If I try to hack your email and steal from it, I'd go to jail.
All right, so in the Trump Tower meeting, for the lack of time that we have in debate, these people are in the meeting, lasted 20 minutes, under the
I don't know if it lasted 20 minutes.
Well, that's what we're told. Well,
at first we were told it didn't happen.
We've still not been told what Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch talked about out there.
No, but I want you to uncomfortable. That's what you guys always do when you're uncomfortable.
Guys. No. But I'm saying we're told it's 20 minutes.
Well, we were also told it didn't happen. And then we were told it did happen, but it was about adoption.
Okay, wait.
And then we were told. So I don't know who's telling you it's 20 minutes. Okay, I don't know.
That's not the point.
Okay,
but we don't know what material information they obtained in this meeting.
Yes, we do.
We do?
Yeah, it was on offer. Actually, just taking the meeting was a crime. If somebody offers you a bribe and says, let's have a meeting about it, especially working on a campaign, just agreeing to the meeting and holding the meeting is a crime. Just because you don't get what you want doesn't mean it's not a crime.
Let me do this then, okay? So on all of that, what you said, when you say we have proof, I'm going to go under.
We do.
Oh no! Wait a minute. I'm going to go under the assumption when you say we have proof. We'll go with that, okay? For argument's sake, you have proof.
Okay.
So we have proof. The American people have proof that Hillary Clinton funneled money through an attorney's office to pay Steele for a dossier they actually received from Fusion GPS that they paid. Fusion GPS, foreign operative.
A British company.
No. Not a
the
British
guy was based out of Britain.
But you said British company. He's a foreign operative, a former...
Fusion GPS is a company. Fusion GPS is an LLC. So it's legally, we've got to be specific here. We're talking about the law, right?
All right, so we
Fusion
funneled
GPS
this
is
through.
a company.
And then you say...
Funneled, wait. They paid for services.
Okay.
It's legal.
If
I had a British guy...
paid a foreign operative. They
paid a foreign...
operative. They paid a foreign operative.
A contractor.
Right. They paid a foreign operative to create something of value.
To research.
Something of value.
Which they paid for.
And that they received. And the DNC and Hillary Clinton used this middle area for a smokescreen.
None of which has been
wrong. But you don't find that to be any problem.
It doesn't matter if I find it to be a problem. The issue we're talking about is legal. If a British person is here, I can hire that British person to make videos. I could hire a British contractor to do this.
But no.
Hold on a second. I would have to report that on my in my election, disclosure.
You're defending all that.
No, I'm not defending it. I'm telling you the law. I don't have to defend it because it's the law.
So then,
that's a contractor. And by the way, the Republicans started paying for this Oppo research, and it was McCain, by the way, who delivered the Steele dossier to Congress, and to the FBI. So this is started out as so if we really want to prosecute everybody, we're going to have to go after the RNC too, because they started the Steele dossier. They started the funding of Fusion GPS, and then Hillary Clinton picked it up after Trump won the nomination.
But you have no concerns about an unverified dossier being used in for FISA court warrants.
It wasn't.
It wasn't?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Do you know what was used in those to get a warrant to start looking at somebody and tracking them and spying on them, like they did Papadopoulos? I'll tell you what happened. Papadopoulos was in a restaurant, in a bar, and he bragged to an Australian diplomat. We know all this from the court documents. He bragged to an Australian diplomat, "We have dirt on Hillary Clinton that we got from the Russians."
All right, so none of this, because we are at 10 o'clock and we're running long, but so none of this you're saying was used to obtain FISA warrants. None of this information.
The Steele dossier was not used to obtain FISA warrants.
Okay.
But that doesn't disqualify the Steele dossier. Nothing in there has been disproved. Not a single thing in there has been disproved. Nothing.
Okay, so now you just went, and the only reason I'm saying this is because I ask, and I've got a closer on this. Here's what I ask at the end. So now on the Trump Tower meeting, you're verbatim firing out emails. We've got proof. We've got proof. We've read this. We've read that. Have you read the Peter Strzok and Lisa Page text messages?
I have.
Are you concerned about that?
I am.
All right.
And they were fired, as they should have been.
Okay. So
that's justice, right? Peter Strzok didn't say witch hunt because of a text. So Peter Strzok was fired. The injustice is not somebody doing something wrong. The injustice is Peter Strzok getting fired, but Don Jr. accepting a bribe from the Russian government to help his father. What's he doing? Last I saw, he was out in Louisiana hunting around with his new.
So you don't think Strzok, Page, Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr, you think throughout this whole side over here, you think over here on this side where Trump's concerned, there's enough to just continue to spend $28 million looking into it, tearing into it, and if evidence proves out, as you say, be impeached.
You know, it'd be a lot cheaper is if he just handed over everything and submitted to questioning. I don't know why he won't do that. But you're worried about $28 million. Okay.
No, it's not that.
I
always wonder why the Democrats is not they don't find any kind of problem on the other side.
Because that's not how crime works. If President Trump committed a crime, you don't have to investigate his presidential opponent for a crime. In the U.S. Constitution, you don't investigate people because every time a Republican commits a crime or a Democrat commits a crime, Menendez, right, the New Jersey senator, was under investigation. It would be absurd to say, Why aren't we investigating his Republican opponent? Because that's not how the law works. I'm a Democrat. If I commit a crime, it would be absurd for me to say, well, Doug Collins should be investigated for the same crime. The only reason Donald Trump is being investigated is because there's evidence that he committed a crime, and we should investigate that fully. Hillary Clinton, by the way,
did he commit?
What time did Donald Trump commit?
What did Donald Trump commit?
Well, there's evidence that he may have known about the Trump Tower meeting, but worse than that, we have the cover-up. Because nobody ever tried to cover up the Steele dossier, the funding, because it's all in there in the election disclosures. Just like any service I pay for is in the election disclosures. We heard, first of all, it never happened. It was about adoption. And then, well, we tried to get dirt, but it didn't work. And then on the plane, when he said, I never drafted that statement about the Trump Tower meeting, he was lying again. He was obstructing justice because it was being investigated at that time. And if I lie to an investigator who's coming into my house about a crime I may have committed or one of my family members committed, if I lie about that in order to keep them from investigating, that's obstruction of justice. So there is evidence he did. He needs to be investigated. We already know, by the way, that he broke a campaign election law by paying off his mistresses. That's a whole separate crime. Cone.
No, we don't know that. You say that he did not break campaign.
He admitted that he paid, that he knew about.
He can do that.
First he said he didn't know about it, and then he said he did. Right? He can lie. He
can pay anybody he wants. You can call it whatever you want.
No, actually, under election law, I have a limit on how much I can pay.
He didn't come out of the campaign.
It went. No, it doesn't matter if it came out of the campaign.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't actually matter. No,
yes, it does.
It actually went through a slush fund. It went through a fake corporation that Michael Cohen set up, which is illegal. Right. If I set up a fake corporation to pay off a mistress, which I don't have any, by the way, but if I had a mistress and I was trying to pay her off, and I told my lawyer, hey, which we have a recording of him doing, talking about the money to pay it off. But this is...
We're not clear on the recording. You speak...
We know.
No, we don't. Who's the we? We this, we
anybody
that.
Who listened to it. But look, you see what this is,
You can do this.
Brian, let's talk real talk.
Bill Clinton spent so much money.
Right,
no, they spent so much money paying off people left and right. Come on.
Who did he pay off?
Was it Paula Jones or was
How much they paid her off?
Go look it up.
Was it a settlement or what? Was it a settlement?
Oh, so wait a minute. Now you changed the term. It's a settlement. No, you just said it's a settlement.
I didn't. The court did. No, listen. If Bill Clinton paid off a mistress during the campaign to run for president, that would be a crime. The same way it would be for Donald Trump to set up a fake corporation to pay off a mistress. Two that we know of, actually, Stormy Daniels, and I forget the other. I'd lose track of all of his mistresses, but either way. But you see what the right-wing media is doing? And it's what you just did a little bit, Brian. Let me be honest with you here for a second. You are the behavior that it would have made you explode about Bill Clinton. Or but as justly it should, if you really believed in these things, right? If you believe that presidents should have integrity, look at everybody falling over themselves. He has a right to pay off his mistress. He has a right to lie about it.
No, I didn't say he had a right. Don't spin my words.
You said that.
No, he could pay people. It's not he has a... It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
That's what you're saying. He can pay his mistresses.
It doesn't matter.
So he can. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying whether that's up to the voters to decide if they're okay with it. Mm-hmm. But legally, he broke no laws.
If you or Cone pay off... if I hire my lawyer to do it, and he uses his own money or tries to hide the money, this is a cover-up. He was trying... It wasn't reported.
Not a cover-up.
It wasn't reported, and it was for the purpose of the campaign. If I try to pay off a mistress it's for a political reason. It's because I'm trying to get elected. And if I did that, that's political spending.
You should go back. You should go back in all fairness and see what you could personally do if you have the money for your campaign, what you could put in, what you can do, and
I don't need to pay off a mistress. But
but I mean, you're arguing that he broke the law. He did not break the law.
It is illegal to create a slush fund and to allow someone
saying it over and over doesn't make it true.
No, it doesn't.
But you do.
But you deny
say things
that
over and over,
illegal.
thinking it'll make it true.
No,
it's not.
I don't think it makes it true because it's in the law. There are limits on individual donations of $2,700, and Michael Cohen paid under the direction of Donald Trump the payoff money. I don't know what the going rate for a Trump mistress is. I think it's $130,000. I grew up, by the way, in a church that condemned Bill Clinton for his infidelity. And I have been shocked at the hypocrisy of the religious leaders who were railing against Bill Clinton. And look at all of these, from Billy Graham's son to Falwell Jr. falling over themselves.
We have to
say
close.
It's okay when Donald Trump has a mistress and pays her off for $130,000. Not only is it immoral, it is also illegal to give more than $2,700 to a campaign from an individual. That's the law.
We got to go. But I want to ask you this because, and answer the question. I'm going to put it this way. Answer the question.
Okay.
All right. Hillary Clinton. All right. We've got the documents. You continue to say everything on this side. We got the documents. We got the proof. If you say it over and over, we got the proof. We got the documents. We have this. We have that. Okay. The American people, not me, the American people, we have all of Hillary, not all of Hillary's stuff, but we have what we've been allowed to see. So, on a 4th of July weekend, Peter Strzok, okay, lead investigator, sit down with Hillary Clinton, and she was not put under oath concerning her emails, and her private server was not put under oath, not recorded, nothing. And Hillary had attorneys with her. Okay?
Which is her right.
Is it? No, I didn't ask you that. Is that true or false?
Yes, it is true. But
it's true. Wait a minute. My God, wait
just a question.
Yeah, I just don't want you filibustering it and giving me your side.
Well, you're doing a lot more talking than I am. So
no, but okay, I want to make sure because I always want to make sure if I'm right or wrong on something.
You're right, but
so I find something I'm right on.
Lying to the FBI
I found
is
something.
a crime, whether you're under oath or not.
I found something I'm right on. Correct?
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton was interviewed by Peter Strzok with the FBI. That is now fired. Okay, now fired.
Right.
Obviously, at that day, we did not realize things about Peter Strzok or his political affiliations or his interests or whatever. But I'm not going down that road.
Well,
okay?
you did.
No. We didn't know that day. When he went, we didn't know that. You didn't know that day. I didn't know that day.
Yeah, you just want to mention it though.
But wait a minute.
Why don't we get on the road?
But I want to stay clear.
Oh, all right.
Peter Strzok with the FBI interviewed Hillary Clinton with her attorneys present. Okay.
Right.
Not under oath and not recorded.
It's still a crime. If she lied to the FBI, you don't have to be under oath. If you lie to the FBI, it's a crime. So, but yeah.
But that happened, right?
Yeah, but there's no crime in that.
Okay.
Where's the scandal? I don't understand.
So, you're not upset about that not being put under oath, not investigated. Are you okay? Do you know what bleach bit is?
I do.
Okay. I'm going to tell you how I learned because I did not know what bleach bit until I heard Brian Pagliano's name and bleach bit and how she took a server that she had installed in her home that had classified information going through it that we now and bleached it.
Right.
I'm just saying, and at this time she's Secretary of State.
Right, and it was wrong for her to do.
Wait, at this time she's Secretary of State. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me build where I'm going.
Okay.
At this time, she is Secretary of State, right?
Now, you said I wasn't going to be able to filibuster, but you've been going on a while.
I want to lay this out because you're not explaining to me. All I want to know at the end of this is why you're not as concerned in some areas. So at this time, she's Secretary of State, right? When
right
this
now?
happened. No, when this happened.
Well, in Fox News world, she's still President of the United States. But
no. When this happened,
she was Secretary of the
right.
Hillary Clinton. Let's talk about Hillary Clinton.
We have documentation. We know
and investigations.
All right, we have things that say she busted up all the cell phones.
Right.
We got all that stuff.
And she was fully investigated for years, not only by the FBI, not only by the FBI, but also by Congress. She was put under oath for 11 hours. And you know what? I'll tell you this. Let's make it fair. Let's let the FBI investigate Donald Trump for as long as they investigated Hillary Clinton. Okay? Let's let them spend as much money investigating Donald Trump as they investigated Hillary Clinton. And let's let Donald Trump testify before Congress for 11 hours under oath as they did Hillary Clinton. I don't have a problem with that.
But wait a minute. So now we fast forward.
Oh, okay.
The concern we have is the Trump Tower meeting. That's where you've stayed.
Right.
You've stayed in that circle with the Trump Tower meeting.
I haven't stayed in the circle. I went
But
with
no, that's
Hillary
that-
Clinton.
But I mean, when we talk about scandal and this and that,
Right.
and what we have, you've been in the Trump.
I didn't
Tower.
tell you I wasn't concerned
Now,
about
at
her
the time,
bleaching
no,
the-
wait. I'm not going to argue with you whether the law is correct or not on campaign finance. Okay, I'm not going to. I mean, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong.
You made a statement
No,
earlier
but
that I
at
did
that
my
time-
homework. So you did
Well,
make a statement I didn't do my homework.
the homework was you should look at other candidates and what has been done
And we have.
funneled cash through.
And that's what we've done. I just talked about Hillary Clinton. Let's make it fair. Hillary Clinton bleached her server. I think
Okay.
there are ethical
Donald Trump-
and legal questions that should be investigated. She should have been investigated no matter what position she holds in the government. I'm glad that Congress looked into it and that we spent money on it because it's an issue of legality. Our officials are not above the law. Hillary Clinton was investigated. She was put under oath for 11 hours before Congress. Let's do the same thing for Donald Trump.
Should there not have been a special counsel appointed to look at Hillary Clinton?
Well, the reason there was a special counsel appointed for Trump is because he fired the guy who was investigating him before. If you'll remember this, the last time I came on the show was because he had fired James Comey and said it was because of the Russia investigation, right? So Barack Obama, if he had fired Comey for investigating Clinton, then yes, there should have been a special prosecutor looking into it. But they didn't fire him. Remember, Barack Obama was the Democratic president at that time. He could have fired James Comey before for investigating Hillary Clinton, but he didn't call it a witch hunt. He didn't say that they were the enemy of the people. He didn't call them the deep state. They let the investigation finish.
So you would never, and you say
So let's
everything,
treat them
everything
equally.
on the Democrat side
Treat them
has
equally.
been vetted out, and you're satisfied with the results.
I'm saying that let's treat them equally. Let's give Donald Trump the same treatment Hillary Clinton got. I'm not saying make a distinction between them. I think that it was immoral and unethical what she did with the server. In the Constitution, unless you find a crime, though, I mean, there may have been a crime in that server, right? But if you don't have the evidence that she committed a crime in that deleted emails, you can't prosecute her under our Constitution. But it's still unethical. James Comey railed against her in Congress, as he should have. I agree with him. She shouldn't have kept that stuff on her server. However, I agree with the investigation of her, with Congress questioning her under oath, as she should have been. I agree with Comey doing an FBI investigation. I even agree with Comey announcing the reopening of the investigation during that year, right? However, I think it should be fair. Let's do the same thing for Donald Trump that we did for Hillary Clinton. You keep bringing up the Clinton case. Let's do it. Let's do the same thing for Trump that the Republicans and the FBI did to Clinton. And we'll see where it turns out. If there's no evidence that Trump committed a crime, he shouldn't go to jail. He shouldn't be prosecuted or be impeached. But if there is, just as if there was under Hillary Clinton, they should be treated like you or I would be treated, because nobody's above the law.
Okay, nobody's above the law, but I guess I'm more alarmed with the other side of it.
Why? But you're accusing me of only being
Not
alarmed
accusing-
on one side. Why are you not alarmed by Donald Trump's Trump Tower meeting? Are you alarmed by it?
No.
So you've accused me. I've told you I'm concerned about Hillary Clinton's use of the server, and I told you I think it should be investigated. And you accused me and Democrats of only you accused me.
Michael Cohen supposedly said that Donald Trump had knowledge.
Right.
Okay.
Under oath, by the way. No, it's
No.
Under oath.
Under oath, in front of Congress, he said no.
Mm-hmm. Right, and he's being prosecuted for that, by the way. He's being prosecuted for lying. That's one of the things that Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's longtime attorney, is being prosecuted for. And remember, the reason he's turning on Trump...
Lanny Davis didn't even have the information, and he fessed up.
It's in the
Lanny
court
Davis,
documents.
They asked Michael Cohen if he wanted to go back and amend his testimony, and he said no.
Right.
He said under testimony that Donald Trump was not aware. They don't have this earth-shaking evidence from Michael Cohen that Donald Trump was well aware.
I'm not saying they have evidence. I'm not saying they have evidence. However, I think they should be investigated just like Hillary Clinton was investigated. Don't you think they should be treated equally? Hillary Clinton's not above the law, and neither is Donald Trump. If it is a crime to misuse your server, which it is, if it's a crime to knowingly delete information from your server, then they should have prosecuted her, but at the very least investigated her. They should have. But see, on my side, I want equal treatment. Put him under oath like Hillary Clinton was. On your side, you're concerned about the bleaching of the server, but you're not concerned about an overt crime, which we have the emails for. And it's the irony that we've come full circle back around to emails. Where are her emails? Lock her up. Why not look for Donald Trump's emails or Don Jr.'s emails that he sent back and forth with the Russians? I just think that I just wish media on a certain wing of the media would hold them to the same standards. I wish the religious leaders in the 90s that railed against Clinton for running around on his wife, which they should have, that was their conviction. I wish they would. I'm not asking them to give Bill Clinton a pass. I just want them to be consistent. If you thought it was wrong for Bill Clinton to have mistresses, you should also condemn equally Donald Trump for paying $130,000 or whatever the going price is for his string of infidelities. I just want people to be consistent is all I want. So I am concerned about Hillary Clinton's unethical stances. I disagree with a lot of what Hillary Clinton did. Regime change in Libya. I think that Barack Obama, by the way, deported more people than Trump has so far. I'm not picking sides. I'm against inhumane immigration policies, whether it's done by Democrats or Republicans. But my problem so far has been no concern for an illegal Trump Tower meeting, but only concern for a bleached server. I just wish we'd treat both sides the same in the media.
Well, hey, let me ask you a question. Did
Okay.
Democrats send you like an email of talking points?
This is the 9th District of Georgia. The Democrats have been very nice. They say, "Hello, Josh, great job." And they gave me training one day on how to fundraise and how to do canvassing and organize. But I don't get any talking points from anybody. This is my thoughts. This is what I think. And nobody makes my thoughts for me. I don't watch cable news. I read my news because I can't handle the noise. I don't care if I get sick of MSNBC. I want information. I don't want spin or opinion. These are my thoughts. I'm a Latin teacher and I also read Greek. So it's not like I have my own thoughts. And everything I've said today, none of it was produced by the Democrats, because if you look at the Democrats' talking points, whatever they are, they're less than overwhelming. Let's just say the better deal. I wish Democrats would be stronger and bolder about progressive values, but they're not. But you look at what I've said today, and you can try to match it up with the Democratic Party. I've come out against Pelosi, and there's a big pushback on that right now. I just saw an interview Pelosi did with somebody today, and the interviewer was asking her. It was a very friendly interview. What would you say to those people? And I was alarmed that she sounds a little bit like Trump. I'm great. I was a great legislator, and I just want us to look at people as human beings and not as Republicans or Democrats. And if we treated Donald Trump the way we treated Hillary Clinton, I'd be fine with that. I'm okay with that. But I don't get talking points for Democrats. These are my own beliefs and ideas. I made them myself. I didn't cheat or plagiarize or steal anybody's speech.
You're not opposed to impeaching the president if you find...
If there's evidence, no matter what the party is, of a crime and a fraud against the United States, any president should be impeached.
And you do agree with dismantling ICE?
I do.
You do agree with dismantling ICE?
Mm-hmm.
You do believe in Medicare for all?
Yes.
You believe in Medicare for all?
That's my number one priority, actually. Above all this other stuff, Trump is immortal. Hillary Clinton is immortal. The way of all flesh. They are all going to go away one day, and including me, and it's going to be a memory. But I think one thing we can do is hand on a better world to our children. I don't think anybody should die because they're poor, and I don't think anybody should be going poor because they're dying. My number one priority is health care for every single American. All the rest of this stuff, to some extent, is tabloid politics. I'd rather talk about policy that affects everyday citizens. But I have, of course...
And you would not build the wall.
I would be fine with Mexico paying for building the wall, but I'm going to hold him to his promise. Mexico was supposed to build it.
I think that's it.
All right.
Did you have anything that we forgot to talk about?
I'd like to close on my favorite rule, and my favorite rule is the golden rule: love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So I want to tell you, Brian, I'm sorry I called you Bill.
That's okay.
I want to tell you, Brian, that you're my neighbor and that I love you. I want only the best for you and your family, that I will pray tonight for God's blessings on you and your family. I want nothing but the best for all of my neighbors, no matter their immigration status, their wealth, their poverty. And I want to tell you that I think we could make a better world if we pass legislation based on the golden rule. Love your neighbor as yourself. I want health care for me and my family. I want a good paying job where I go into work, put in a good day's work and get a good day's pay, and I want education for my children. I also want that for you and for all of my neighbors in the 9th District. That's what I'm running on. And the tabloid politics is fun, but every day, day in and day out, these chicken plant workers that are feeding me, construction workers that are building my shelter, whether they're legal or not, they're feeding me, and these places are hiring them. And that means I need to desire the same level of justice and dignity for them that I get. So that's what I want to legislate when I get there. I think it would be a better world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh McCall, running for the 9th District of Georgia, 9th Congressional District of Georgia. We know we're running late, and I hope after these messages you'll stick around for instant replay. We've got to go. We've run over on time. Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.